Inspiration is found, not forced. It doesn't arrive through sheer willpower or constant motion. It's not summoned by alarm clocks, deadlines, or motivational quotes. Real inspiration comes quietly, often when you're least expecting it, in silence, in stillness, in solitude. And most importantly, it cannot coexist with the very weight that broke you. You can't heal while holding hands with what hurt you. We live in a world that glorifies productivity and motion. People run from moment to moment, distracted, overstimulated, and overwhelmed, believing that if they just do more, think harder, or hustle longer, clarity and purpose will emerge. But that's not how inspiration works. You can't yell at a flower to bloom. You create the conditions, and then you wait. The same is true for yourself. Healing, creativity, and self-discovery come from creating space, not stacking pressure. But most people don't want space. Space feels like loneliness, and loneliness reminds them of what they're avoiding, the truth. And the truth is often this: we're still holding on to the people, patterns, or past versions of ourselves that broke us. Somewhere deep down, we think if we just hold on long enough, they'll change, it'll make sense, or the pain will turn into peace. But it doesn't, not until you let go. There's a certain pain that comes from familiarity. From sleeping next to someone who no longer sees you, from trusting a friend who keeps repeating the same betrayal, from working a job that kills your spirit, from being addicted to your own self-doubt. And yet you stay. Why? Because pain that we know is less scary than the unknown. We'd rather sit in a burning house than walk out into the dark, unsure of what comes next. But inspiration doesn't live in the fire. It lives in the quiet beyond the door. It lives in the moment you decide, enough. That single decision to step away from what is killing your soul is the moment you start to breathe again. That's when the whisper shows up. That's when creativity returns. That's when your mind stops spinning long enough for your spirit to speak. You cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. You cannot find peace in the arms of someone who thrives on your chaos. And you cannot find inspiration when you're busy protecting your pain. Healing isn't an intellectual process. It's emotional, spiritual, even physical. You must stop drinking poison and expecting medicine. You must stop revisiting the wound and expecting it to close. Some doors don't need to be slammed, they just need to be locked forever. And when you do let go, really let go, not performatively, but with a deep internal surrender, something changes. You notice light where you once saw shadows. You notice space where you once felt suffocated. You wake up without that heavy feeling in your chest. You start remembering who you were before the world told you what to be. That version of you, that's where inspiration lives. Inspiration doesn't shout. It doesn't compete for your attention. It waits for you to slow down. It waits for you to listen. Sometimes it comes through a line in a book, a single lyric, or the way the wind moves through trees. Sometimes it's in the way your body relaxes when you're around people who make you feel safe. Sometimes it's just a feeling, a gut pull that says, this way. And when you follow it, even if you don't know where it's going, it never leads you astray. Because inspiration is your soul's navigation system. It's truth in motion. It doesn't come from trying to be like someone else. It comes from stripping everything away until you remember, I am whole even here. Especially here, so no, you can't heal while holding hands with what hurt you. You can't chase inspiration while dragging chains from your past. You have to be brave enough to let go, quiet enough to listen, and honest enough to feel. Only then will you see what was always waiting for you: inspiration, not as a moment, but as a way of being. Do the work that feels like play, and you'll never need to be pushed. You'll be pulled by curiosity, not pressure. Pulled by joy, not fear. Pulled by something that lives so deeply within you that it doesn't even feel like effort. It feels like remembering who you are, but you can't do that kind of work, the kind that flows from your spirit while still tethered to the people or places that broke you. You can't create from your core while clinging to the pain that silences it. You can't heal while holding hands with what hurt you. Most people live in survival mode. They do what they have to, not what they're built for. They wake up dreading their day. They silence their intuition. They numb their dissatisfaction with busyness and distraction. They choose jobs, relationships, and routines that feel like obligation, not inspiration. And over time, they forget what it felt like to be lit up by something, forget what it felt like to create, not for approval, but because it felt like breathing. But the work that truly matters, the kind that shifts your life, is never born from force. It's born from freedom. It flows from the parts of you that are untouched by fear or expectation, and that part can't thrive in environments where you feel small. It can't come alive around people who manipulate you, diminish you, or make you question your worth. That's why healing is the prerequisite to inspiration. That's why letting go is the first step toward remembering what you're meant to do. If you're still anchored to the thing that wounded you, you'll never fully show up to the thing that's calling you. It could be a job that pays well but empties you. It could be a relationship that looks right on paper but feels hollow in your heart. It could be a habit, a belief, a version of yourself you've outgrown. Whatever it is, if it's draining your energy, it's stealing your life, and if you don't let it go, you'll convince yourself that life is supposed to be heavy, but it's not. You were not meant to grind through every day, counting down to some distant finish line. You were meant to build a life that feels honest, a life that feels like you, and the clearest sign you're on that path is this: the work feels like play, not easy, not lazy, but flowing, energizing. Aligned, that kind of work doesn't need an alarm clock or external rewards. It feeds you even when it exhausts you. You lose track of time in it. You forget to compare. You forget to impress. You're just in it, and that's the space where healing happens, where creativity lives, where purpose grows. But you can't fake your way there. You can't keep saying yes to things that numb you and expect clarity to arise. You can't cling to your past and expect to discover your future. There's a certain pain in holding on, a quiet suffering that builds every time you betray your own instincts. That pain doesn't disappear, it just gets buried under achievement, titles, and distractions. Until one day it surfaces in burnout, in anxiety, in the sense that no matter how much you do, something's still missing, and what's missing is you, the real you, the one you abandoned to please others. The one you quieted to keep the peace. The one you lost while chasing things you didn't even want. You can't reclaim that version of yourself without shedding what no longer fits. And yes, that means letting go. Sometimes of people, sometimes of paths, sometimes of identities you've worn for so long they feel permanent. But once you do, you create space, space to breathe, space to explore, space to follow what pulls at your soul instead of what checks a box. And in that space, you'll start to remember the work that once made your eyes light up, the curiosity you buried, the creativity you abandoned, the joy that was once effortless. That's your compass. That's the signal. Follow it, not with a 5-year plan or a perfect strategy, but with presence. Do more of what makes you forget to check your phone. Do more of what makes you forget who you're supposed to be. That's the work that feels like play. That's the work that heals. That's the work that changes everything. But it only begins when you stop holding hands with what hurt you. Let go. That's where your life begins again. Let inspiration be your compass. Not logic, not fear, not the voices of people who never dared to follow their own. Inspiration doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's a quiet pull towards something that feels right even when it doesn't make sense. It's not rational, it's real, and if you learn to follow it, moment by moment, it will lead you not only to your purpose, but to your healing. But here's the truth most people avoid. You can't follow inspiration while still tethered to the very things that broke you. You can't move forward if your hands are still tied behind your back. You can't heal while holding hands with what hurt you. So many people are lost, not because they don't have direction, but because they've been taught to ignore the compass within. We've been trained to value stability over truth, approval over peace, comfort over growth. So instead of listening to what calls to us, we listen to what's expected. We stay in relationships that shrink us. We work jobs that drain us. We surround ourselves with noise to avoid the silence that would show us what we've known all along. We're not okay, but inspiration lives in the silence, in the space between doing and being. In the parts of you that haven't been conditioned, criticized, or controlled, that part of you knows where to go. It always has. You just stopped listening, and the longer you ignore it, the more lost you feel. The more disconnected, the more numb. Not because inspiration isn't there, but because you're still clinging to what was never meant for you. There is no healing in environments that caused your wounds. You can't build a new self in the presence of the people who only recognize the old one. You can't move freely when your energy is spent defending your worth, and yet we hold on to people who hurt us, to narratives that limit us, to old identities that no longer serve who we are becoming. We hold on out of fear, nostalgia, guilt, or some deep, unspoken hope that it will all somehow fix itself, but it won't. Not until you do. Letting go isn't easy. It can feel like dying, because in a way it is. It's the death of who you were so something new can be born, and in that space, in the uncertainty and discomfort, something beautiful begins to rise, your intuition, your clarity, your power, and from there inspiration returns, not all at once, but in whispers, in gut feelings, in little signs that make no sense but feel true. That's your compass, and once you start trusting it, life begins to change in quiet, radical ways. You'll start saying no to what drains you without needing a reason. You'll start saying yes to what excites you, even if no one else understands. You'll walk away from things you once begged to stay in. Not because you're heartless, but because you finally understand. Love isn't meant to hurt, work isn't meant to numb, life isn't meant to be endured, inspiration isn't about chasing some grand vision of success. It's about choosing aliveness in the present moment. It's about asking, again and again, what feels true right now, what feels honest, even if it's hard. What would I choose if I wasn't afraid? The answers aren't always clear. The path won't always be smooth, but it will be yours, and there is nothing more healing than living a life that feels like your own. So if you're lost, don't try to figure everything out. Don't look for blueprints, formulas, or 10-step plans. Just start listening to the quiet pulls, to the gentle nudges, to the parts of you that feel alive when everything else goes still. Let that guide you, and as you do, you'll notice something. The more you follow your inspiration, the less room there is for anything that hurts you. The people who drained you will fall away, the doubts that haunted you will fade, the heaviness that once sat in your chest will begin to lift, because when you follow your inspiration, you're not just finding your path, you're remembering your worth. And that, more than anything, is what heals you. But it all begins the moment you let go. So let go, not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of love for yourself, for your future, for the life that's still waiting for you. Then take one small step in the direction that feels light. That's your compass, that's your freedom, that's your healing.